Hello everyone, Dao here. Genshin 3.0 has dropped and the new Dendro element and reactions have been introduced to the game. The new reactions mostly have multiple phases which could be confusing. I'm going to use a new series of videos to talk about every Dendro reaction and their properties in depth. Today we're going to go through every detail about Catalyze reactions. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to talk about the basics of Catalyze reactions, a quick introduction of elemental gauge theory to help understand today's content better, all key properties of Catalyze reactions, like how elemental application works on them and how aggravate and spread damage is generated, which characters are good for Catalyze traits, and team building and their compatibilities with other elements. At the very beginning, let's take a look at the basics. How Catalyze reactions work. Catalyze reactions have two phases. First, when Dendro reacts to Electro, Quicken reaction will be triggered and the target will be in Quicken status. A Quicken aura will appear at the top of the target, but please note that even though we're seeing a Dendro icon there, the target is in Quicken status, and this is different from simply being applied with Dendro element. To make things easier, we denote the product of Quicken reaction by Quicken element. And to tell the difference between Quicken status and Dendro status, when a target is applied with Quicken, there are both green electric effects and green leaves around the target. While for Dendro application only, the target only has green leaves around it without the electric effects. The second phase is that when a target in Quicken status gets applied with Electro, Aggravate will be triggered on the target, and the electro damage will be increased on this attack. Here we can say Quicken plus Electro is equal to Aggravate. When a target in Quicken status gets applied with Dendro, Spread will be triggered on the target, and the Dendro damage will be increased on this attack. Similarly, we can say Quicken plus Dendro is equal to Spread. Next, to keep you interested, I'm listing the summary of all the key properties of Catalyze reactions here, and expand them every one of them in detail in the video. Feel free to pause here for a closer look or take a screenshot for future reference. If you want to know a certain few of them about Catalyze reactions, you can jump to the corresponding chapters. But I do recommend you watch the full video so that you can get a more comprehensive understanding of the Catalyze reactions. As you can see, there are many occurrences of the term gauge units in the properties that are listed. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to elemental gauge theory here to help you understand the rest of the video better. If you are already familiar with this part, feel free to skip and jump to the next chapter. In Genshin, when you apply an element to a target, an element aura will appear on the target and a certain amount of elements will be attached to the target at the same time. We use gauge unit to represent this value and quantify how many elements are being applied. Elemental applications have strong types and weak types. The application with strong types can apply 2 gauge units of elements on the target, and the one with weak type can apply 1 gauge unit. The real cases are more complicated than this, but we can simply think in this way for now. Also, please note that there is no better or worse for weak and strong types. Each has its own use cases. Most attacks and skills in the game do weak elemental application, but some of them can apply strong elements. For example, Bandit's Press E applies strong Pyro, and Beidou's E applies strong Electro. Most elemental reactions consume elemental gauge units. The 2 elements involved in the reaction will be consumed with a certain ratio. Usually it's 1:1. But if an element counters another, say element A counters element B, then the ratio becomes 1:2, and 1:0.5 vice versa. For example, Hydro counters Pyro, so 1 unit of Hydro can react to 2 units of Pyro, and 1 unit of Pyro can only react to 0.5 unit of Hydro. In today's video, Dendro and Electro have no countering relationship, so we don't need to worry about the special case here. Genshin elemental gauge theory is very complicated, and today I just kept things easy for everyone to get ready for the Catalyze content. If you're interested, you can look it up online and I'll also make a video to fully discuss it in the future. Now, let's get back to our main topic today, Catalyze. Let's get started with our key properties. First, Quicken reaction does not deal damage. From this clip, you can see my Tinali does 8516 plain damage with his charge attack. Then, we first apply Electro on the Ruin Guard and then use Tinali's charge attack to trigger Quicken. And you can see Quicken is triggered, but the charge attack still only does 8516 Dendro damage. And we cannot see any other damage dealt. From this, we know that Quicken reaction itself does not do any damage, but puts the target into Quicken status to prepare for the future damage boosts for Aggravate and Spread. Next, Quicken reaction follows the basic elemental gauge rules. First, Quicken reaction consumes elemental gauge units. The ratio between Dendro and Electro is 1:1. Second, the triggering element does not remain on the target. Here, we first apply weak Dendro with Tinali's charge attack, and then apply weak Electro with Yai's normal attack. And you can see the two elements fully react and turn into a Quicken element. Next, we use Beidou's E to apply strong Electro first. Then use Tinali to apply weak Dendro. If you look closely, after the Quicken reaction happens, there is still a weak Electro aura blinking. This indicates two things. First, Quicken and Electro elements can coexist. Second, Tinali's weak Dendro does not fully react Beidou's strong Electro, so the reaction ratio on gauge units is 1:1 here. Next, let's swap the order of Beidou and Tinali. We apply weak Dendro with Tinali first, and then use Beidou for strong Electro. Then, Quicken happens, but only Quicken aura appears. This means Quicken follows the normal elemental gauge rule that the triggering element of a reaction does not remain on the target, regardless of how strong it is. Next, the duration of Quicken status depends on the amount of gauge units consumed in the reaction. The more, the longer. First, let's do an experiment with weak Dendro and weak Electro. We apply weak Dendro with Tinali and weak Electro with Yaimiko to trigger Quicken. And we wait here. We can see that the Quicken status expires after about 9 seconds. Then, let's try strong Dendro plus strong Electro. By patch 3.0, only Dendro MC's Q with Burgeon can apply strong Dendro, so we're using it here. Then, apply strong Electro with Beidou. We can see this time the Quicken status lasts longer and is about 13 seconds. But in combat, we don't need to specifically look for strong elemental applications here, as most applications are weak. And from the next few parts of the video, you can see that it is very easy to proc Quicken and keep it running. Next, Quicken elements can coexist with Electro elements and Dendro elements. Quicken reaction and Aggravate Spread can be triggered simultaneously. Here, we first apply weak Electro with Cyrus' charge attack, then apply weak Dendro with Tinali. Now the Ruin Guard only has Quicken element with it. We switch to Dendro MC and apply another weak Dendro. So now, the Ruin Guard is applied with both Quicken and Dendro elements, even though you only see one Dendro icon there. Next, we switch to Yai and apply Electro, and you can see clearly that both Quicken and Aggravate are triggered together. This proves that Quicken element can coexist with Dendro element, and Quicken and Aggravate can be triggered simultaneously. Same with Spread. We apply weak Electro with Yai, then apply weak Dendro with Tinali for Quicken. Then use Lisa for another weak Electro application. And you can see both Electro Aura and Quicken Aura are there. At last, we use Tinali to trigger both Quicken and Spread to end this demo. If you still feel confused about this part, feel free to roll back and rewatch the examples at a lower speed, or leave a comment below. We are not done yet. I believe there are some travelers who watch carefully and have already found something weird in the previous two examples. Let me use the second example here. When I switch Lisa to apply additional Electro, it's clear that Aggravate is also triggered. But why does the Electro still remain on the target? Shouldn't it be reacted and consumed in Aggravate? The questions will be answered in the next very crucial property. 5. Aggravate and Spread do not consume any elemental gauge units of either Quicken, Dendro, or Electro elements. I'm going to use a couple of clips to verify this. Please note that Aggravate and Spread are equivalent, but since Quicken Aura can override the Dendro Aura, I will just use Aggravate in the next few demos to show things more clearly. First, let's take a look at this clip. We start with Yai to trigger Quicken, then we switch to Official for Oz and Lisa for her ult. We can see that during the Quicken status being active, Aggravate is triggered in a total of 5 times. And the Quicken status still lasts for 9 seconds. This definitely proves that in Aggravate reaction, Quicken elements are not consumed. Because if Quicken elements are consumed, we cannot trigger Aggravate these many times, and the Quicken status would have expired before 9 seconds passed. So this clip shows that Quicken elements are not consumed in either Aggravate or Spread. In another word, triggering Aggravate or Spread do not affect the duration of Quicken status. Next, we use Yai to trigger Quicken as well. Then, we use Lisa's weak Electro to proc Aggravate once. You can see both Quicken and Electro auras are coexisting on the target. The first timer records the duration of Quicken status, and the second one records the duration of Lisa's Electro application. You can see both durations are still about 9 seconds, which means no elemental gauge units are consumed in this process at all. Therefore, Electro elements are not consumed in Aggravate either. At last, similar to Electro elements, Dendro elements are not consumed in Spread as well. Overall, this is a special and extremely critical property of Catalyze reactions. This greatly decides which kinds of characters should be built or are more suitable for Aggravate and Spread reactions, and we'll mainly discuss this later. Here, let's first take a look at the following key results. First, Quicken, Aggravate, and Spread are really easy to trigger. As long as we consistently apply Electro and Dendro to the target, we can keep the loop of Quicken running, and keep triggering Aggravate and Spread. This is because when Quicken status is active, whenever there is an Electro and Dendro application, Aggravate and Spread can always be triggered. Second, during Quicken status, unlimited times of Aggravate and Spread can be triggered and they do not contradict each other. Because of this, we do not need to worry about using who to trigger the reactions, because both Dendro and Electro characters in Aggravate and Spread can trigger the reactions at the same time, which makes the combat a lot easier. Whenever the target is in Quicken status, we can just dump Dendro and Electro DPS to it to deal boosted reaction damage for both elements. These features, along with the next reaction property, closely decide what kinds of characters to use for Aggravate and Spread, so they are very important. Now, let's move on to the next property, damage calculation. 6. The damage increase by Aggravate and Spread is a flat damage bonus, which is similar to the mechanics of Shenhe's E and Yunjin's Q. And this determines that Aggravate and Spread are neither amplifying reactions nor transformative reactions. Let's first take a look at the formula for one-time Aggravate and Spread damage. I have put all the explanations about the terms below and you can take a look. Please note that the damage increase here is a flat damage bonus that can be further multiplied by other regular multipliers like crit or elemental damage percentage bonus. The flat damage bonus is decided by the level and the EM of the character who triggers the reaction. I put a formula here as well. The reaction multipliers are slightly different between Aggravate and Spread, but it doesn't matter too much. And the last thing is, the damage increase only works on the attack that triggers the reaction. Some attacks do deal Electro or Dendro damage, but they cannot trigger reactions due to their internal cooldown. In this case, the damage boost won't be applied. ICD is also a very important concept in elemental gauge theory, but I'm not going to extend it too much here. Just keep in mind that not every elemental attack can apply elements. Also, ICD is a concept on elemental application, not elemental reactions. Then, let's take a look at the following clip to verify our theory. You can see currently, my Lisa does not have artifacts and she has 0 EM and very low crits. Her normal attack now deals 12 electro damage, and 44 with Aggravate. Then, let's put an artifact on her to give her higher crit damage. Note that she still doesn't have any EM. Then, look carefully. My Lisa did 3 attacks here. The first one was still 12 since it didn't crit and the Ring Guard was not in Quicken status. But the second one was also 12, which doesn't quite make sense as the Ring Guard was already in Quicken status, but it didn't proc Aggravate. This is because of the ICD we mentioned previously. Lisa's first normal attack already applied Electro and triggered Quicken. And when she released the second attack, the ICD was not over, so the second attack didn't trigger Aggravate. At last, the third attack triggered Aggravate successfully, and it critted with a higher damage, 75, because we gave her an artifact with higher crit damage. For the damage increase from EM and level, since it's similar to transformative reactions, I'll skip it here. But you can also check the damage increase ratio from your EM in the character stats panel. I hope you did learn a bunch about Catalyze reactions from this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I will do my best to answer them as much as I can. In the next video, we're going to answer the following 2 questions that we brought up previously about team building and elemental compatibility. Hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next video. Bye!